Isai Rivetta for Dr. Isai. I've got my good friend here, Serena. Serena, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Serena Perez, and I go to Cedar Ridge, and I play for the 18U United team.
All right. So what we're going to go over today is a lot of the mechanisms and a lot of the predisposed imbalances through our muscles and how to fix them that lead to different types of pain in areas like when we're throwing, any type of motion or any type of feeling like that. Now, the way we're going to go ahead and combat those things is we're going to teach it using a softball. A lot of times we often have the excuse that, well, I don't have a foam roller with me, I don't take it to games, I don't do any of those things. But we want to be able to show you, teach you, and educate you that that's not an excuse. And if you really want to be a high-level player, maintaining your body and taking care of your body is going to be one of the most important things you'll do, because you can go to tons of showcases and you're all doing the same things. You're all going to extra lessons. You're all doing all these extra things outside of your sport to get better, but are you taking care of your body? Are you handling your body? And what we're going to go over today is all the education pieces, the tools, and how to use them to fully kind of take control over your performance and over how you play the game, keeping you on the field as healthy as possible and performing at an optimum level. All right, so the first thing we're going to address is we're going to start with our upper region. So go ahead and stand right here, Serena. So one of the things, and Serena, you're right-handed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the ensuing tightnesses that we're going to have around that right area is going to happen because of two things. It's called a force couple, okay? A force couple is muscles that work together to create some type of movement. And so for Serena and for anyone who is right-handed or left-handed, it doesn't matter, there are going to be tightness in our pec, upper trap, and also in our latissimus dorsi, which is our side, okay? So whenever we're thinking about, okay, my shoulder hurts, where is that pain coming from? What happens is the more that we throw overhand, the greater our external, meaning our outside range of motion gets, and the worse our internal range of motion gets. Your pec controls that motion that comes in through here. Now what happens is we also have life. So if our kids are, how do you typically hold your cell phone, Serena? Yeah, so we have those shoulders that are already being pulled forward from a constant thing that we live life like, and we're like this. So for your athlete, if you've got rounded shoulders, one shoulder higher than the other, a lot of that's going to stem from how we play and then how we live life. Now those factors contribute to the pain that we can sometimes be susceptible to. So the first thing we want to do when we're attacking that is we've got to attack this pectoral region right here, okay? And the way we're going to do that with a softball is we're going to be lying on the ground. So go ahead and lie on the ground right here, Serena. Okay, face the other way for me, please.
Face my head the other way?
Yes. So, on your right side. Yeah, so face that way. Good. So for Serena, scoot back a little bit. We're going to attack that right side first, okay? And so where we want to go ahead and put that softball, we want to get it inside that pectoral muscle. So what you'll do for yourself, if you raise your hand and you grab that band of muscle right here, we want to be sure that once you get there, your thumb will naturally fall into the area that where we need to place the ball, okay? So what Serena's going to do is she can use her left hand to find that space within her chest. Now what she's looking for here when she's moving that ball is the place where she feels the most tension and discomfort. That'll come naturally. So as she puts and applies pressure into the ball, that's what you're searching for. So when you're maneuvering it around with your left hand, the space that we're looking for is about this wide. So you want to move in that area, okay? We found it pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is we're going to relax the opposite arm. So she's relaxed right there, fully putting pressure into that spot. We're going to turn our head away from the ball to increase the amount of tension. Now there's 3 specific movements that we want to go through. Whenever we're releasing tissue, we want to be sure that we go through the ranges of motion that are happening within that structure, okay? So the first thing she's going to do is she's going to take her arm back and have her thumb pointed towards her body. From that position, she's going to reach with her middle finger and she's gonna lift her arm up and down, okay? Now, the ball may move a little bit, so as that's moving, we wanna be sure that we're staying stuck on that tension point. So we're gonna go through this 10 times. So go ahead and work through that range of motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? Our second motion is we want to reach out all the way to the side with our thumb up, okay? We're continually pressing into this spot right here, being sure we're over that ball and creating tension and getting into that tissue. So we're going to do the same thing. Go ahead and bring your arm up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as she's doing this, she's continually driving into that ball, being sure we're alleviating that tension. Okay? Go ahead and get to 10. Once we've done our 10, this is our third move that we're going to have. Now, like I said, our pectoral, what are we doing when we're throwing? We're getting overhead and increasing those ranges of motion. So we're going to bend the elbow. You're going to keep your palm right here on whatever surface you're using, and you're literally going to slide up overhead. This is where the ball will move the most, so you need to be sure that if you have to use your left hand to keep it in the same place, that we're doing that, but you want to drive into this ball, and we're going to slide up 10 times. 3, 4. If you have someone with you, or if you're doing this with a teammate, it's a great opportunity for the other person to help you by putting pressure into it. Okay, always talk to each other. If you're creating pressure that's a little bit too unbearable, then just kind of ease off it a little bit. It's not necessarily the amount of pressure, but it's still getting into that tissue that's important. Once we get to 10, we're at 10? Okay, so go ahead and sit up a little bit, relax. Okay, so what we want to do is now we want to attack that other side, so we'll show it from a different angle. So go ahead and lay with your head first, and we'll attack that left side. So regardless if we're only throwing with one hand or anything like that, we always want to release both sides, because I can guarantee you most of your athletes, both shoulders are up here like this, so that chest needs to be taken care of, okay? So go ahead and find that spot for me. Good, good, good. So what is our first move? Thumb towards the body, raising it up, and go. Remember to look away. There you go. Good. 10 times. Good. Then to the side. Be sure we're maintaining pressure right there. That thumb goes up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now we go to the slide. Reach up there. Go ahead and go. How's that feeling?
It's a little bit.
Good. And then you see she makes the natural adjustment to stay over the spot where she feels tension the most. 10 times. Once that 10 times is done, go ahead and relax. Okay, go ahead and sit up on your knees. Now, once we release tissue, what we want to think about is once that tissue is released, if we were sitting in a small room before, releasing the tissue makes that room bigger for us. What we still have to do is try to get new range of motion within that new room. So we call it reaching for the walls. So if you've made a room bigger, now you can really stretch by reaching for walls that are further away from you. Once we release the tissue, we want to go ahead and do a chest stretch. If at home you've got a doorway, the easiest thing to do for you to do that chest stretch, both forearms inside that doorway, push into it. You're going to drive your leg through and just allow your hips to drive you through and create that stretch that's happening. Now, if you've got a partner, what we want to do to stretch that inside through that chest is go ahead and put your hands behind your head. Now, if you have a partner, you're doing this in practice, any of those things, you want to be sure, keep your chest out, and you're going to help them by pulling them open. And so the keys here are being sure that our head doesn't dip down. We're going ahead and we're staying straight as possible through this motion. And at the same time, if we're talking about how long are we doing this, we want to be doing it anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. So we're continually working through this. As a partner, if you feel a little tightness coming on, then you want to be sure that you kind of attack that tightness and be sure that you're pulling them evenly on both sides. Okay? We're around 10 seconds left here. Good, good, good. 3, 2, and relax. Okay? Go ahead, shake your arms out a little bit. Now, one of the other things that happens that gets tight is our neck. Whenever we have this motion happening, those protracted shoulders, everything gets pulled forward. Our neck is one of the things we don't think about that we don't take care of. And the easiest thing to understand with that is go ahead and if we tilt your head to one side, how does that feel?
Tight.
Tight. Now let's do the other side.
Tighter.
Okay. And you'll be able to feel that difference on your own. If you have one side tighter than the other, that means one side is in particular, you're leaning towards all the time. How does this affect you? Not just in a matter of, oh, it's going to cause some shoulder pain, but if you're hitting, if you're catching, if you're doing any of the skill work, if your head's constantly tilted at a different degree, you're going to see things differently than your coach does. So a lot of times what's happening is the communication that we're lacking in our lessons is not because we're not coachable, it's because structurally we're not straight. And if you're not straight, you're not going to be able to achieve the progress that you want because of that misunderstanding before you even get into your lesson. So how do we attack that neck and how do we stretch that? The first thing we want to understand is our neck attachments come down here. So we want to pull those attachment sites away from each other. That's how you stretch. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attack the right side. You're going to put your hand behind your back. Okay? So once that hand is behind her back, we'll show it from the front first and then we'll show you the back view with the other side. She's going to grab that same wrist with this hand.
Like this?
And what she's going to do is she's going to pull this shoulder down and across. It's going to make kind of this chicken wing right here. We want to keep that pulled. So once we're pulling this shoulder down, we want to go away from it. So the first thing we'll do is you're going to kind of look down towards the corner and you're going to tilt your head open in that direction. Okay? Same thing. We're going to sit here for 30 seconds. Okay? So we're already at 25. And while we're doing this, we want to be sure that we're constantly looking away, being sure that that stretch is happening. Be sure that that shoulder stays constantly pulled down and that you're keeping that chicken wing very, 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 very big. Make the biggest wing you can on that side. Okay? We get about 10 more seconds. Now, all that's going to change once we change this stretch, it's redundant, but all that's going to happen is we're just going to, instead of looking down to the corner, we're going to look up to the corner. Okay? So start to shift your eyes towards the top and look towards the top corner. It can be either the corner of your room, the corner of a sky. You're just changing your vision and it's going to change the stretch for you. We're going to stay here for 30 seconds as well. So you feel that stretch change when we look up and down? Good. Keeping that chicken wing, keeping that chicken wing. Like I said, if you've got a partner with you, they can be the ones helping move your head a little further away from your shoulder and keeping your shoulder down. Okay, the last part of this three-way stretch for the neck, we're going to tilt our head back. Once we tilt our head back, we're going to think about our ear moving completely laterally into the side. So once that happens, stay looking up to the ceiling, or to the sky, and we're just distracting ourselves by looking away and then pulling that head away from the neck as well. Same thing, we're going to be here for 30 seconds. Got about 15 seconds left. How we feeling, Serena?
Good.
Three.
This one's definitely the most tight.
Yeah. 3, 2, and relax. Good. Just go ahead and face that way. Good. So go ahead and show me how we would loop through it with the other side. Good. So you notice this hand, the shoulder that we're going to stretch gets pulled down, and that's the wrist you're going to grab. You can see that here. She's making the chicken wing on the opposite side. So if this is the shoulder being pulled down, she wants to move away from there. So tilt that head away and look down. And so when you're doing this on your own, you're really, really looking towards that corner. And the thing we want to be sure that's not happening, that she's doing a really good job of, is that this shoulder doesn't follow you up. And that's what this is for, to keep it pulled and maintained down. So we want to be sure that that's happening. Same thing, we're in this for 30 seconds. You're counting 1001, 1002, however you want to count. 1, 2, any of those things. And so remember, the second part of the stretch, all we're going to do is change what our eyes is looking at. So right now she's looking towards that corner right here. We just change and start to shift our eyes up and look to the corner over there. And that's going to help change that stretch for us. Like I said, if you have a partner, they can help you get deeper into that stretch. Be sure everything's working well. Good, good, good. Keep that chicken wing, keep that chicken wing. Good. Last part of the stretch, head goes completely back. And we think about ear and shoulder, just driving that away. And you're just driving completely to the side. Eyes are to the ceiling, moving, moving, moving. Good, Serena. Good. Same thing, keeping the shoulder down. Now, if you're a parent and you're helping your child stretch and you're seeing kind of this scapula right here kind of pop out and do some work, that's going to show you the type of tightness that we have going on in the chest area for a lot of these ladies. Okay, the scapular winging that happens is it's a referred type of symptom, referred type of movement from the actual tightness on the anterior side of our body, so the front side of our body. Go ahead and relax. Okay, so once we've taken care of that neck, we want to be sure we're going to take care of those lats now. Like I mentioned before, you can go ahead and turn around. Like I mentioned before, the mechanisms that typically lead to shoulder issues are going to come from tightness, neck, upper trap, pec, and our lats. So your lats help abduct your arm. They help keep you in they help stabilize you through that throwing motion, whether it's forward, backward, whether we're pitching, any of those things. And they commonly can get tight. The thing that happens a lot is a lot of our kids will have shoulders that are higher than the other, okay? So what happens is we'll have one side of our lats is tighter than the other, and we've got to relieve that tension. We've got to relieve that tissue. The way we do that with a softball is what Serena's going to do is the place we're looking for. Go ahead and put your hand over your head. So like we talked about with our chest area, and we have that band of tissue right here up front, this is more behind the armpit and to the side. So if you lift your arm as a parent or as an athlete, you're going to see this tissue right here raised. That's where we want to get into with the softball. So we're going to lay on our side and have the softball driving into that tissue, okay? So go ahead and get on your side. Yes, ma'am. So sit up just a little bit, and we're going to find, you'll use the opposite hand. And what we're looking for here is there'll be several spots that'll be pretty significantly painful. What we want to see here is what spot is the most painful. And we want to go back to that spot, and that's where we want to lay. Okay? Let me know when you found that spot.
You found it.
Good? Okay. Now what we're going to do with our hand, this outstretched hand, is we're going to reach, we're going to let it go out here. For some of us, we're going to be so tight in this area that it's painful just to lift that hand up. Okay? So what we want to be sure we're doing is we're reaching this middle finger outstretched to the side. And what Serena's going to find out when I move her a little bit is the pressure on that lat changes pretty significantly. So what we want to do is we want to reach for those 30 to 45 seconds. If we can lift up and we can use this hand to help balance us, Then we want to go in a circular motion 10 times, 10 circles, and we're reaching the whole time we're doing that motion. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. From here, we're going to move forward. That's going to change some things for us. Like I said, we want to work through the range of motion that lat provides. We're reaching again. Reach that finger. Then we're going to make those circles again, going over that tissue. Like I said, for a lot of you that are doing this right now, this can seem pretty painful. But we want to be sure we're staying on that area and we're working through it. 10 times, 10 circles. Once we do those 10, now we're going to work through ranges of motion, moving fluidly. Reaching the whole time, 1. Like I said, if you can't do this and you're still at home, you can't even raise your arm, you're still reaching as hard as you can with your arm flat. Good. 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 One last reach as hard as we can. Away. And relax. Good. Go ahead, flip over. Let's do the other side. How'd that feel for you, Serena?
Kind of painful.
Face the other way.
This way?
Towards the... Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, a little simple.
There you go. So same things. Now, if it's hard for you to roll on the ball, one of the adjustments we can make is you'll bring your leg over right here, and you can kind of push yourself with this foot over the ball. Okay, and so that's how you're finding that space and that tissue. That's going to help in order to be able to get through that. So go ahead and find that space that we feel the most tension.
Yeah.
We're there. Extend that hand out. Good. Now if you can on your own, try to bring it up. There you go. There, make those circles. Use this hand to balance. Good job, good job. Good. So you can see when Serena's doing it on her own, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, and it will cause some issues of pain. But we've got to, the body is a beautiful machine, but in a way, whenever we have knots and inflammation, what happens is our muscles run over those things. They don't push them down. So what rolling and tissue release does is they literally mash your fascial structures that become tight. They put them back into their space so that you can restore the normal length tension relationship that they've had previously. And that's what allows us to move better and feel better. Okay? Still in that space?
Yeah.
There you go. Let's try the movement up and down. There you go. Good. One of the key pieces here is that as we're moving out, we want to point that thumb out like a hitchhiker. So thumb, start to rotate it out a little more towards me. There you go. We want to do that 10 times. So if we're remembering the pattern, we have 10 circles overhead, 10 circles by our side, and then 10 like our hitchhikers. Good? Good, good, good. Go ahead, stand up. Good. So once we've reduced a lot of the tension in our lats, okay, chest, and then we've reduced some tension here in our neck, we want to be sure our lat stretch is a little different. We want to stretch our lats. You'll have to typically be either on the ground. If you have a foam roller, that's great. Okay, so we're going to show you both ways. So first thing we're going to do right here is I want you to be right here, Serena. You're going to be on your knees with your thumbs up just like this. Okay? So what's happening here when we're stretching our lats, the reason we have our thumbs up is so we can get more targeted area, more targeted stretch towards there. And the only thing Serena's going to do is literally use the roller to roll forward, keeping your arms as long as possible, and you're just letting that chest gravity work through and feel that stretch. So she's naturally letting gravity allow to pull her head down. You're not forcefully trying to do anything. For those of you that need a deeper stretch, yeah, you can drive your chest down a little harder and let your head fall forward a little more. But all we're trying to do is keep those thumbs up. We're constantly reaching. And the same thing, we're here for 30 to 45 seconds. Okay, now if we're not going to use a foam roller to do that, if you don't have the foam roller at home, the only thing that changes here, go ahead and move to your side, so facing that way, that way. The only difference, so on your knees again, on your knees. The only difference is she's just going to use the ground to do that. So go ahead and reach your hands out. She's going to walk her hands out as deeply as she can first, and then she's going to let that chest fall through, and she's still maintaining that stretch. If you want to deepen that stretch, all you have to do is you can work different sides. Say if I want to work my right side a little more, you'll let your palms fall down, keeping that hand outstretched. You'll reach the other hand over, and now with this distance, reach as far as you can. Reach as far as you can. You're naturally letting your chest go through. And the same thing, you're sitting here for 30 seconds. Reach, reach, reach. So like I said, if you're at home, one hand over the other, driving down, reaching, reaching, then we hit that other side. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, like I said, when we have the opportunity, sometimes, yes, like if we're trying to get our upper trap, it's a little harder to do that with a softball, but we can work the other areas that commonly make that upper trap tight. So pec, neck, lats, being sure we're taking care of those things. Always remember, it is much more beneficial that we release tissue and then stretch it statically, okay? There's plenty of science and research that has shown us that you will increase your range of motion or restore your range of motion to a much greater degree than either static stretching alone or foam rolling alone. Does that make sense? Good. So go ahead and stand up, Serena. I want you to shake your arms out. You shake them out, open them up. So I want you to tell me how that feels.
A lot free. My shoulders aren't popping anymore.
So Serena in particular has had some issues with her shoulder as far as when she plays an extended amount of games, falling into some pain-like symptoms that kind of radiate for her through her shoulder and then come all the way down to her back, okay? A lot of that, like I said, what we checked for Serena in the beginning, she's got one hip higher than the other, and that also has to do with how one shoulder is a little higher than the other. That comes from tightness all over that shifts your body in different ways. So we want to be sure that taking care of your shoulder is, yes, I can prevent a lot of things by doing the chest, those maintenance, but we have to take care of the lower half as well because everything is connected. So what we're going to work through next is working our way back towards the hip and being sure that we're stretching and taking care of the legs, okay? So now, go ahead and stand straight for me. One of the things we want to look at when we start to roll out our calves and start that process is what do our feet do when we squat? So go ahead and straighten your hands to your head, okay? Slowly squat to the height of a chair. Good, relax. So what you notice is her toes stay pretty straight. Now for you, if you try that out and go ahead, push your toes out as you squat, straight first, and then gradually slide them out. Now if this happens where you see that your toes are coming out, one of the adjustments you have to understand is typically that's calf tightness. We want to be sure it's calf tightness. So if you're at home, if you have anything that you can put your heels on, here we're just going to simply use a plate or the stick. You would put your heels, just your heels, on an elevated surface. Go ahead, relax right there. The reason we put them on an elevated surface is because if our calves are tight, and that's really the cause of why our feet go out, then if we give them extra range of motion by raising them, then your feet are going to stay in the same place. They're not going to move. So if we raise the heels, go ahead and do that squat again, and your toes stay straight and it fixes, then yes, we know that that's a calf issue because once we gave the calf range of motion, that's where it happened, okay? And a lot of times that's going to be in the outside of our calf, not just the middle. Now, if her toes were to still turn out after raising her heels, then we know that the tightness is more in line somewhere here at the hip. So we want to be sure that even if you think just rolling your calf is the symptom, your calves are tight. Your calves are tight because of something happening upstream as well, not just calf tightness. So that's a simple check that you can do for yourself to understand that. So we're going to go ahead and roll out our calf, okay? So go ahead and be on your butt, please. We're going to use our softball to do this too. Now, the first thing we want to do when you're understanding when we're rolling larger muscle areas, the upper body, most of the muscles we rolled, you felt everything right away. We want to be sure that we're in the spot where tension is highest, where discomfort is highest. It's not completely necessary to roll every knot. And just rolling up and down isn't always going to relieve tension within that muscle or relieve tightness. So what we want to do is whenever you're rolling, you want to start at the top and roll through once every piece of tissue in that calf. So go ahead and do that. Notice how she uses the opposite leg to roll through there. Okay, so so what you want to do is once you've rolled through once, you go back to the top and you want to remember where you felt the spot of most tension. So go ahead and get back to that spot.
The spot where it hurts most?
Mm-hmm. The spot where it hurts the most. Yes, ma'am. Once we're there, one of the things we can do to increase tension, bring this other leg over. Good. Straight over, all the way. Good. So we can increase the amount of tension in that ball. So what we want to do is once we're sitting in that area, we want to slowly kind of rock back and forth over that area. Maybe half an inch to each side. Once we're doing that, that's where we're finding and dealing with that tension. And the same concept, we want to have some active range of motion. It's going to hurt a little more because you'll feel that stretch, you'll feel your fascial system kind of tighten a little more, but we want to feel this ankle move up and down. How does that change things for you?
It hurts a lot more.
Yeah. Okay. And the reason it hurts a lot more, especially when we bring our foot up, is because what's happening is when you flex your foot up, it stretches your calf naturally. So it allows us to get deeper with the ball because we're not only stretching it by bringing the toe up, but we're getting into that tissue as well. So you want to move that foot up while you're rolling. So this will happen for 30 seconds. So we're sitting here, rolling. Good. So right at about 30 seconds. Now here's a key indicator for us. If our toes turn out, tightness is going to be more localized to the outside aspect of our calf. How do we do that with a softball? Easy fix. All Serena's going to do is turn toward the outside edge, and you're going to start again, rolling. This one, more than likely, calf tightness is going to happen at the top more than it is anywhere else. Right there. Good. So we do the same thing. Lift that other foot over. We have that pressure, and we're doing the same thing, moving that ankle. 30 seconds. And so what's happening is when we have outside calf tightness, that's what leads to that external rotation of the feet. Okay? Now for someone whose ankles collapse and they have those flat feet, that's going to be another indicator as well that the outside aspect of your calf is tight. You know, so if you feel like your arch falls every time you squat down and it collapses, we've got some outside calf tightness that's happening, and we want to be sure that we do that check with raising the heels to be sure that, okay, is it just at the calf or is it further upstream as well? Good. So let's go ahead and do the other side. Now on this one, be sure you get that full roll. So same things we're going through. Through the whole tissue, all through the muscle. And then we go back and find the spot with most tension. Good. Start to move that ankle up and down. Good. Good. About 10 more seconds. Continue rolling, continue working through it. Good, relax. So we're not going to do the outside on this one because for her, you notice, feet didn't turn out that much, okay? She's got some other issues that are happening. Now, as we're moving up, some of us, for that outside calf, if you feel you can't get tension too much, use your ball and get on the outside of your calf by actually pressing into it. If you feel you can't get enough tension, get right here and dig into it. Up and down the outside of that calf. It'll seem a bit more painful, but it's one of the ways I like to do the outside of my calves, just because I can control the amount of pressure a little better, and I can really, really target that outside aspect of my calf. Okay, as we move up from the calf, one of the things we want to get to is our calves and quads are the muscles, they're our push muscles, okay? So they're continually, when we're squatting, when we're moving, they're typical muscles that are overactive. So we want to be sure and attack that quad. So the way we're going to attack the quad is we're going to make that roll all the way through once and then go back and find that place of tension. So we'll do that from being on the ground. Now, I want you to roll your left quad first so we can show what the right leg does, okay? So face sideways.
This way?
Yeah, head facing that way. So, one of the ways we want to deepen the pressure on the quad is we're going to bring this knee all the way up. Good, right there, right there. Okay, and so we can use kind of the pressure from this foot to help roll through that quad. So go ahead and do that. Good, good, good. Keep rolling through. And the same principles are happening here. You're rolling through completely once, and then we go back to the spot of most tension. Let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Okay, once she's there, we want to take the forearms out of the equation a little bit. So kind of go lax on your forearms so that you can get more pressure. There you go. Good. Now, once we're on that spot, what you want to do with your leg is you can lift your foot up a little bit, and you can kind of turn your ankle to help actually, it's called, when we do it with our thumbs, it's called doing a little cross fiber action. So going across the tissue, we can do that. So we'll do that for 30 seconds in that painful area. So you're really just kind of rolling your quad side to side over that ball. And so we'll do that for around 30 seconds, okay? We're still gonna have one more part that's gonna be a little more painful, but it's really, really, really gonna get into that quad, okay? So the next part, we've talked about active range of motion for the quad. Another principle is called, reciprocal inhibition. Reciprocal inhibition means that it's a large word for just meaning that if I contract one muscle on one side of my body, the opposite is going to relax, okay? And so we're going to use this to help get into our quad deeper. What she's going to do is bring her heel towards her butt. When you feel that happen, you're going to feel it intensify the pressure in your quad. The reason that's happening is because when your heel goes towards your butt, your hamstring is turning on more. If that turns on more, it's going to relax your quad. So we're going to do that for 30 seconds as well. Slowly, taking about 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down. She's moving that heel through that range of motion. Being sure, for those of you at home, yes, it's going to be more painful. Yes, when you bring that foot up, it's a moment, okay? But we want to be sure that we're driving into it. If you've got a partner at home, be sure that wherever the ball is, they can go ahead, put their fist, and they just put pressure right here to be sure that we're really mashing into that tissue and making it more extensible, being more flexible. Okay, do it about 3 more times. 1, 2, and 3. Good. Okay, so the next thing that we're looking at, go ahead, is keep your leg over there, is if we're gonna do our adductor, so the inside, we can do it right after we do one quad. So go ahead, we'll take the ball away, and this leg is already out. Now, we want to do the same thing with our adductor, okay? We want to roll through it once, and then find the spot of most tension. If you're at home and you feel like the ball's not giving you enough pressure, one of the easy things that we can do, it doesn't necessarily have to be a yoga block, but you put the ball on the block, and then you have to drive your foot over it even more. So that's an adjustment you can make. If you feel like any of these tissue releases aren't giving you the amount of pressure you're looking for, calf, quad, any of those things, all you do is raise where the ball is so that you can drive into it better. So once we're doing this adductor, we want to work through that same thing. Knee stays straight, working through some ranges of motion here. How's that feel, Serena?
Good. Hurts a little bit.
There you go. We want to get to where it hurts a lot.
Yeah, it hurts quite a bit.
So, same thing. We're doing this for 30 to 45 seconds, being sure that we're really, really working through ranges of motion, not just blah, blah, blah. I'm bored and I'm just rolling because someone told me to. Okay? Rolling is not effective if you're just on the ball going up and down, up and down. You have to find those trigger points that are your knots and mash them down so that we actually restore that range of motion. Okay? Same thing here. We're doing this for 30 seconds. So go ahead and relax. Now we want to do that side calf. So all we do is make that switch.
Wait, do this stuff.
So that calf, the opposite leg comes out. A little more. Right there. And so remember, once you're rolling through, you're on top of your forearms. Once you've found that spot that has the most tension, relax on those forearms. First thing, turn that ankle. Good. So that we're getting cross-fibered through that quad. Good. Doing that for 30 seconds. Being sure that we're really just kind of rocking through that tense spot. Rocking through it. Being sure that everything is working well. We're really getting into that tissue. Go ahead and start the active range of motion. Heel to the butt. So like I said, this activates the hamstring. Science will tell us we activate that hamstring. The quad's going to relax a little better. So a lot of times, we got to use those simple principles to help get to that tissue and be sure we're really, really, really attacking and alleviating a lot of the tension that we had. Same thing, we're doing this for 30 seconds, being sure we're engaging that hamstring, driving into it. If you're having some trouble driving your quad into the ball, you can engage your hips so you can drive your butt, squeeze your butt into the ground, and that'll help you create some more pressure into that quad. What it'll also do is it'll help alleviate some tension in your quad because your butt will try to get you into extension and your quad isn't really a muscle that's playing a large role within that motion. And relax. Go ahead, hit that other adductor. You don't have to use the block if you don't want to. So we're doing the same thing here. She's working that other adductor. And just to be clear, your adductors, if I'm here, your adductors, they adductors, they bring your leg in, okay? A lot of times, specifically when we have those shifts, if I have one hip higher than the other, one adductor is typically not working as well because your adductor will always kind of keep you in line and pull you down. So if you have one hip higher than the other, a lot of times we got to be sure we're strengthening that adductor, that inner leg, to be sure that it's telling us where straight is. Your muscles are what communicate and tell you where you're supposed to be in space and at time. But if they're not activating, it's kind of like being blind in a room full of people, but none of them are saying a word. So you have no idea where they're at until you hit them. And that's literally how your body feels. Go ahead. So active range of motion, moving that leg, moving that leg. Go ahead and relax. Good. So we've released the quad, calf, adductor, typically muscles that are a little tight for us. Now the next thing we want to do is stretch them, okay? So for our calf stretch, you can still use your ball. Fit your foot here. Now what we want to do is we want to be sure we drive our hips into the ball to stretch that calf, okay? So go ahead and do it facing that way. So once again, we're getting that toe as tall as possible. If we need to get more, then we just climb the ball a little more. Put that foot back a little bit for better balance. And so we're literally just driving the hips into the ball, stretching that calf. Same thing here. We're going to be here for 30 to 45 seconds. If some of you have a wall at home, put your foot on the wall, drive into it. But the reason we're using a ball for all of these things is to make sure that you guys understand that there's no excuse for us not to be taking care of our body and recovering just as hard as we're training, doing all our skills, and getting to our lessons. Always remember that if your body structurally can't perform a task that your hitting coach or your pitching coach is asking, it's going to take you a lot longer to progress than it should. Go ahead and switch. And that's what's so important about taking care of your body, getting this release work done, getting these stretches done. if we're not accomplishing that, you're not doing everything you can to be as good a player as you can. And telling yourself that you're about the grind and you're about being Division I or playing collegiate sports, honestly, it's not the truth. You're not doing everything you can or everything you're capable of to do those things. Because if you're playing in pain, it's going to come to a point where you get injured and now you're missing time. College coaches can't see you if you're not on the field. What's the point of being on the field if you can't perform at 100%? Is that really what you want coaches to see? All those things fall in line. And I guarantee you there's a lot more kids that aren't taking care of their body than there are doing the extra stuff like hitting, pitching, fielding, all those things that you're doing. Go ahead and relax. So to stretch the quad, one of the things we want to do is we're going to go ahead and lay on our side. We're going to kind of take the balance aspect out of it. Okay, so what we want to find is if you've got a doorway, even better, not necessarily needed, but you're going to bring that bottom knee up, okay? And we want to think knee to navel right here, okay? So once that bottom knee is up, we're going to go ahead and bring this leg back, heel to butt. And what Serena's going to do is she's going to reach for her calf. And now what we immediately want to do is keeping this foot here, we want to pull this leg back, okay? And so this is where I said a doorway comes in handy because it allows you not to move. What we're going to feel right here is we're immediately hitting the quad. What is different about this than standing up and doing it is that when you're standing up, sometimes balance is an issue. If I have to worry about balance, I'm not creating the stretch I should, okay? Now, if you've got like some bands at home or anything like that, you're more than welcome to tie the band around your foot and continue to pull overhead back there. But if we've got a solid wall, if you've got a partner, as a partner, what I would do is I take my left hand right where hers is, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to attack right here where her kneecap is and move that range of motion. Increase it for her, help her increase it. We want to be sure that we're not collapsing, and what I mean by that is that her shoulders aren't dropping down and everything. We want to be as straight as possible and then move from that position. And we want to stay, once again, 30 to 45 seconds into that stretch. Go ahead and relax. Let's do the other side. So once again, top knee is up. Bottom knee right there. She's attacking that. Grabbing, pushing. If I'm a partner, now she switched sides. My right hand goes where her hand is. Left hand goes right here where her knee is. And I'm simply redirecting her, okay? You want to be sure, the other thing, if you don't have a wall, your foot is that barrier so that she doesn't slide back down. And we're here, driving, increasing that new range of motion. Keep that held, keep that held. Good, don't let that foot go. The other thing, you see where her hand's on her head? If you want to, go ahead, slide that hand down. She can kind of try to grab her knee and keep her knee in this position and stretch at the same time. Now, we want to increase and intensify the stretch. We're going to squeeze our stomach and butt away. There you go. There you go. Good, good, good. Continue, continue. Like I said, if you had a stretching strap, this is one of those things, you just tie it around the ankle, and then we're pulling it overhead with both hands. Go ahead and relax. So if that's a little difficult for you, another way we can stretch the quads is go ahead and get on your knees facing it. All we want to do is start to lean back as deeply as we can, as deeply as we can. You can put your hands down. We want to drive our quads up, squeezing our stomach and butt towards the air. And that's where we're going to feel some stretch right here happen in the quads as well. Tilt your head back, really just drive. The deeper we get here, the more those quads are going to stretch. You can once again do that 30, 45 seconds. Go ahead and relax. We already got most of it. Now, the adductors, you're going to have your choice of stretches here. The one I prefer to do is our frog stretch or against the wall. But we're going to show you 3 different ways. The first one is your typical sumo stance, okay? So when we get in our sumo stance, you can go ahead and do it with me. Serena's done it plenty of times before. The things we want to look for: heels, outside of our hips, outside of our shoulders. Now, wherever my toes point, those are the tracks, my knees are the train. I have to follow that spacing. So, when I'm here, I drive down, my calf and my hamstring touch. I want to be as straight as possible, and I want to pull my knees open. Okay, so the elbows are inside. She's driving across, so we want to keep our head up. Notice we have a full foot here, so her foot's not leaving. Okay, so that's one way. The other way to do that is our frog stretch. So if you want to think of the sumo, all that happens with the frog stretch is you just fall into it, okay? Frog stretch, we're here, driving the hips down. You can relax right here. Same thing, we're feeling that stretch inside in that position. Once again, we're going to do that for 30 seconds. Go ahead and get back in your sumo. Good. So the same things. Her head is up. She's really, really trying to get her knees pushed away and outside of her. That back is straight. If we look at it from alignment, everything is pretty keen right here. What we don't want is your back to look parallel to the ground. Okay, we want to be sure we're opening those hips. About 15 seconds more. And relax. Okay, so now one of the things we want to do is we've worked through our stretching release. We want to activate some muscles, activate some tissue, be sure that's working. Okay, so we're going to attack that from one actual exercise. So go ahead and lay on your back. So commonly, for a lot of us, we have weak hamstrings, and our serratus anterior, which helps us stabilize our scapula, is inactive. That's what allows the lats and the upper traps to be very overactive. So scoot more back a little. Scoot further back, excuse me. So we want to be sure that we activate those muscles. One of the easiest ways we can do that is from what we call an MSC shoulder bridge position. Okay, so this will be the last thing we'll do to be sure. Now, to activate your serratus anterior, what we want to do is go ahead and raise your hands straight. So instead of just reaching right here, we want to be sure we pull the shoulder away from the ground and as hard as we can. Now, what you'll feel when that serratus activates is if you relax, squeeze your stomach. If you're just bracing your stomach and driving it into the ground as hard as possible, you feel most of that happen right here. Okay? When our serratus is activated, we're going to feel almost like this hug feeling that happens to the outside. Okay? So squeeze your stomach as hard as you can. Good. Now raise your hands. Now drive your shoulders away from your belly and squeeze your stomach into the ground as hard as you can. Do you feel that change? Okay, so what she's feeling is, and it's very important, you can't just be right here. It's not going to activate. You have to drive those shoulders away from your body, leaving your head on the ground, okay? So we're going to combine that with some hamstring activation to get all of our muscles light, to make sure they all light up and we're ready to go, okay? This is also part of recovery because your muscles need to reintegrate everything you've done with the new ranges of motion. So we're going to be knees up. We'll show you this in two views, okay? Now, you can put your softball in between. That'll work. And so we want to use the softball kind of as a gauge to be sure that we are contracting those adductors as well, okay? So once we're in this position, it's just like a glute bridge. We want to be sure that our hip bone and our knee are in line with each other. And we want to be sure all the weight of our foot, it's easier if you're doing this barefoot, is localized around right underneath the pinky toe, right underneath the big toe, okay? So once we're there, hands are long and relaxed. First thing we're going to do is we're going to squeeze our stomach as hard as we can. Once that's happening, we're going to drive it into the ground. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to feel that spot on our foot, push it into the ground. Good. Good, good, good. On the count of 3, she's going to squeeze her butt as hard as she can and pinch that ball. So that's what we're doing at home too. Squeezing your stomach into the ground, squeeze your butt, pinch that ball. Notice, as she's raising, we want to be sure that we're driving the heels towards our butt. That's what's going to turn on this hamstring. Okay? If you want to get more engagement, flex the toes towards your knee and dig those heels into the ground. What we're doing is those heels, squeezing your stomach, squeezing your butt, those heels are digging into the ground and scraping towards her butt without moving. So you're literally trying to pull the ground towards your butt. Squeeze your stomach, squeeze your butt. Now we're going to start to activate that serratus. Go ahead, raise your hands. Good. Pull your shoulders away. Reach. Squeeze your stomach as hard as you can. As hard as you can. There is nothing you're doing here that is 99%. Squeezing your stomach, reaching the sky, squeezing your butt, pinching this ball as hard as you can. Pinch it, pinch it, pinch it. Dig your heels into the ground. Squeeze your butt. Dig your heels into the ground. Squeeze your butt. Dig your heels into the ground. Squeeze your butt. If your hamstring cramps while you're doing this, good. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Reach, reach, reach. Feel that hug, and relax. Good. Stand up. Shake it out. You got a cramp? Good. Good. Way to fight through it. So go ahead and move your body around. Open your hips. Do the same thing at home. How does that feel?
Good. A lot looser.
A lot looser? Okay. So now we want to fully integrate that. We're going to do a couple of mobility exercises that are going to allow us to do that. Okay. Our first one is going to be called gorilla with some thoracic spine extension. Okay. So your T-spine, come over here, right here. Your T-spine, face this way, is we want to create mobility through here. Whenever we rotate, we want to be sure our hips can stay one way and our torso can manipulate the other way. So if you'll notice, if your hip goes with you every time you rotate, you don't have a lot of mobility here in that thoracic spine, okay? So we want to be sure that we're taking care of that, okay? One of the ways we can do that is through our mobility work. So with our gorilla, she's going to be right here. You're going to be in that sumo stance. You're going to pull yourself forward, okay? We're going to bring the thumbs up, driving our hips forward. From here, we're going to bring one hand down and reach, turning our spine, driving our hips to that ceiling, okay? Let's go ahead and do that. Good. So she's head up, thumbs up. Now this right here, eyes follow. And notice we're trying to keep weight on the heels, keeping the hips open, using that hand to balance. We're trying to get our fingers as far away as possible. Now, other way. Good. Hop forward once more. Good. Eyes up. Hips. Make that rotation. Good. Other way. Good. So we're going to do that 10 times, okay? Scoot back. So that's 2. Okay, we're just going to do it 4 here, but you want to do that 10 times at home. Go ahead and do that. You can definitely pause the video, get your 10 done, and then you'll see the next movement. Beautiful. Other side. Oh, keep that balance. Reach, really try to get your fingers as far away from each other as possible. Here we go, next one. Good. Good. Good, come back. So like I said, if you want to pause and get your 10 done, go ahead and do that. Our next movement that we're going to have is we're still working that T-spine. We're going to be sure that we get through ranges of motion, also get a little more stretch in that back. So you're going to be in a quadruped position. So key points here, hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. From this position right here is where we're going to begin. We're going to go from putting our hand opening up to reaching underneath as far as we can, okay? Now we're going to do that our MSE way, meaning every muscle is going to be active and engaged. So once we're in this position, we're going to squeeze our stomach, we're going to squeeze our butt, we're going to reach as hard as we can. And we're going to drive back down as hard as we can. Squeezing our stomach, squeezing our butt. Everything is engaged. Let's go ahead and do that. Face that way, the first one. So before she starts, key points, hands underneath the shoulder directly. Hips in line, so knees can be a little further back. Right there. Good. So we're going to squeeze our stomach first. Squeezing our hips. Good. Now we want to put pressure into the ground. So with your palms, start to rip the earth open. Good. Now start to reach with this shoulder, leading with your middle finger. Follow it with your eyes. Full rotation. Don't let your hips turn. Don't let your hips turn. Squeeze your butt to keep your hips straight. So what we're looking at here, continue in this position, is that rotation is happening from the upper half and the hips aren't moving so much. So you have to be sure that you're squeezing your hips as hard as you can. Now slowly come back down. Everything's happening from right here. This is where all the rotation is happening. Get through there, and you're literally reaching just about 2 inches above the ground as hard as you can. Get that finger to me. Get that finger to me. And the same thing, we're looking for rotation through here with both hips staying straight. So squeeze those hips, squeeze those hips. Slowly come back into position. Good. If you want, you can use a block or a ball. Go ahead and put that in between. You can use a block or a ball to squeeze to be sure that your hips aren't moving outward, that they're going ahead and being engaged and continuing to drive forward. Go ahead and face the camera. We'll do it again. So when you put that ball, it'll be more towards the upper part, because if you put it at your knees, then your knees will close too much. Good. So squeezing your stomach, squeezing your butt. Glutes are on, rip the ground open. Let's start with this side. As she's reaching, she is really, really pulling the shoulder away from her body. Following, pinching that ball, pinching that ball. Let your eyes follow that finger. Rotation is happening right here. Slowly start to come back. Good. Reach, reach, reach. Rotation once again. Right here is happening. Straight arm, reach that finger, pinching that ball, squeezing her stomach. Go ahead, slowly come back. Replace yourself. Before you start with the other arm, squeezing your stomach, squeezing your butt. Start to go out. Good. Follow, follow, follow. Reach, reach, reach. Fingers get as far away from each other as possible. Bring it back. Being sure that those hips stay driving forward. Good. Reach, reach, reach. Reach, reach, reach. As hard as you can. Squeezing your stomach, squeezing your butt. Squeezing your stomach, squeezing your butt. And relax. Good. Good, good, good. So stand up, shake it out. So that motion as well, you want to get 5 to each side, okay? And then once you get up, move it around. So how do you feel the difference in kind of your rotation as it's happening now?
It's like smoother. It feels like.
And why that's important, and so what you said, if you didn't hear, it's a lot smoother. Why that's important is, what are we typically doing when we're hitting, Serena?
Rotate.
And that rotation has to be what?
Smooth.
If we have muscles that are tight, and for specifically like for Serena, she had one shoulder a little higher than the other. If we're tight on one side, when we're rotating, that means we're getting pulled harder in one motion, in one plane. So if we just think of it from a common sense standpoint, are you going to be as effective as a hitter? No, right? And if coach is asking you to perform a specific task, if you're constantly being pulled somewhere else, it's going to be much harder to do what he's asking. Not because you can't or you're not coachable, but because there's other underlying factors that are keeping you from doing that. And that's happening when you're hitting, when you're pitching, and when you're doing all sorts of other tasks and information, okay? So this kind of concludes today's recovery class. If you have any questions, this video is going to be available. If you've purchased it later on, you can watch it anytime. If you have any questions at all for anything else, feel free to go ahead and reach out to me. All my stuff is on my Facebook page or the footdoctorsci.com website. That cell phone number on there is my personal cell phone, so you'll always be able to reach me there. I want to go ahead and thank our volunteer here today, Serena. Serena's what is it class? She's a senior this year. She'll be graduating and playing for The Word Is Out. So she's very excited about that. They just went ahead and won a very, very large tournament this weekend that she's very excited about. Very big tournament, Cedar Ridge. Doing a lot of big things this year, huh, Serena?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you guys for your time. And like I said, if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always going to be available for you. And remember, recovery is the most important thing that's going to keep you on the field, and be sure that you aren't injured as well. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.